Welcome to the Lyceum. I'm Don Albright with my co-host Dan Deffenbaum. Dan's just popping in now. We ask each of you to identify yourselves and your Masonic affiliation in the chat window. And during and after the presentations, post your questions in the Q&A window. And after the presentation, I will convert all attendees to panelists so you can control your mics and cameras. Our speaker tonight is Most Worshipful Freddie Clopton, 33rd degree. And Freddie needs to turn his mic on and his camera.
All right, I'm getting there.
Most Worshipful Freddie Clopton was born and raised in Ohio, and Freddie served in the Air Force, retiring after 23 years as an electrical power plant manager. He is currently Deputy Director of Operations in the 55th Civil Engineer Squadron, responsible for the management of office, Air Force bases, infrastructure. He was raised at Nat Hunter Lodge Number 2, Prince Hall affiliate, serving as master in 2010 and 2012. He served as Grand Master of Masons of the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Nebraska, 2019 through 21. Freddie is a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Mason, first ceremonial master of Tangier Shrine, and active with numerous Masonic organizations. Welcome, Freddie. The mic is yours.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone's is safe and healthy and well. So I guess what I may fumble a little bit through the sharing my screen here, but I'm gonna do some of the PowerPoint here so that we can take a little bit of look here at a little bit about Prince Hall here. And I may jump around a little bit. That's not my intent, but sometimes my my thought process gets a little in the way. So I like to, first start off with, Freemasonry. I believe it can be described as an organization of men, good men, believing in the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of men, and using the builder's tools as a symbol to teach us, our moral truths, impressing, of the minds of all Masons of the cardinal virtues of brotherly love, relief, and truth. So you say, who is Prince Hall? Prince Hall Masonry, I believe, is a parallel line between Freemasonry and originally, started for freed African slaves during the colonies during the Revolutionary War. So it's believed that he was born in Bridgetown, Barbados, West Indies. His father was from the West Indies, and his mother was a freed Black woman from French descent. So as Prince Hall migrated here to Boston at a young age, his father was an actual leather worker and taught him the trade. And he actually did very well in that trade. Self-educated, he also later in life bought real estate, which gave him the opportunity to be able to vote in the Boston, Cambridge area. So historically, we all know that he's considered the founder of Freemasonry for African Americans, and he's what I would consider one of the most influential leaders during that time. So a lot of people ask, why, Black or African Americans were not allowed to join Freemasonry in the United States during that time of the Revolutionary War. But let me step back a little bit on that. So Prince Hall was pretty persistent, and he, I guess for lack of terms, he bugged John Hancock because he wanted to be part of the efforts, the war that was going on. And so he was allowed, and actually he helped out during the fight in Bunker Hill. But anyway, so with the segregation in the United States, where black and white Americans couldn't socially mix, so that caused a lot of I don't want to say anguish or despair, but with the races not being allowed to mix during that time, and a lot of the African Americans were slaves, so by them not being free born, there was only a certain a few that were, they were not allowed to become Masons. And so this picture here just talks about some of the things that were going on during those times. But Prince Hall was actually initiated. Well, when he joined, him and 14 other freed black men were initiated in the Lodge 441 of the Irish Constitution, and which was attached to the 38th Regiment Foot Regiment in Boston Harbor back in 1776, 75, I believe. So those men, once they were initiated, they were allowed to do certain things, have certain rights. They could meet as a lodge, but they could bury their dead. They could St. John festivals, but they could not confer any degrees or do any type of Masonic work, which it makes it a little difficult to actually get membership, which I believe membership's been an ongoing thing throughout our Masonic life. But they did enjoy their privileges as as Masons. So my screen kind of messed up on me here. I don't know what happened. But Prince Hall, he petitioned, the Grand Lodge of England later, because what was happening during that time, other lodges, I'll use mainstream, but I don't really like that, but I'll use mainstream lodges where they were trying to get their independence, from the Grand Lodge of England, so they can start their own Grand Lodges here in the United States. So Prince Hall felt that was something that they wanted to do as well. So they were warranted they were granted a warrant in September, and under the African Lodge 459, but they were African Lodge 1. And I'm actually a member of African Lodge 459, a life member. And biannually, we open up in Boston and go through the reenactment of Prince Hall, which it's an awesome feeling to be able to see how things happened back then during those colonial days. But it took about 7 years before the warrant actually made it back to the United States for Prince Hall, and it was delivered by Captain James Scott, who was a brother-in-law of John Hancock. And Prince Hall was actually, he was elected master of that lodge. So, and here's a picture of the warrant that was granted. You can see here where it's kind of charred there, but this was the warrant this is the charter, the original
Freddie?
charter from England that is still in the United
Freddie?
States. Sir.
Do you think you're sharing your screen? Because you're not.
Oh, I'm not. Ooh, sorry. Is it on now? Uh-oh.
It's coming.
My apologies, everyone.
It's on now.
Okay, my apologies. I'm going to go through a couple of screens there, and I thought I was sharing. I tell you, this modern technology, what would Prince Hall do with this? So what I talked about a little bit as far as the the charter here. I don't think I can blow that up, but that's the chart piece there. That is the actual original charter that was granted from the Grand Lodge of England. And I feel bad about the missing that. So what happened was a fire. They had a fire in the Grand Lodge, Massachusetts, and that record or that charter was actually in a silver container or a metal container, and from the heat, it was actually saved by the Grand Master Kendall, who crawled into the building to get that charter. And I'm going to try and blow that up so you can see it. It's kind of hard to see, but this charter is actually kept in a safe in Boston. And I've actually seen that charter when the Prince Hall Grand Lodge opens, African Lodge 459. It's actually brought in by the Knights Templars, and they posted 2 guards there for 20 minutes rotating out to make sure this charter is protected at all times. So I want to kind of jump to the death of Prince Hall, but I will. I guess my slides a little. But Prince Hall, he passed away in 1807. But like I had stated, the charter that was granted in September, we actually, as Prince Hall Masons, every September around or close to the 29th of September, due to the warrant being granted on September 29th, we have Prince Hall Americanism Day, which we actually honor our founder, Prince Hall. So if you have the opportunity this September, if you're up in Omaha, we'll definitely have a Prince Hall Americanism Day. And you'll be able to hear a Prince Hall paper that talks a little bit about the history and life of Prince Hall. It's very informative. But as I was stating on the during this death, African Lodge 459 formed the Grand Lodge, and then after Prince Hall's death, they named the Prince Hall Grand Lodge in honor of him. Here's a photo of the gravesite. The actual broken column is in front, just a little bit to the left is the original one, where it has "Here lies the body of Prince Hall, first Grand Master of Colored Grand Lodge Masons in Massachusetts." I actually had bookmarkers made of the broken column, and I didn't think people would think anything of it. I was just thinking, hey, this would be a nice souvenir, but they kind of went like wildfire. So Prince Hall is very, very, very instrumental. And, with the Prince Hall being the Grand Lodge, being the only, have the only original charter come from England, that legitimizes, Prince Hall Masonry from its lineage going back to England. But we know there's still some states that do not recognize Prince Hall, but the proof is there based on the charter that's in Boston, encased in a thick glass, that is still, which I believe is the only original charter that's held by any Masonic body in the United States. So in Freemasonry, back in the 50s, during the civil rights movement, it was the racial divide. We knew that things weren't as popular in the United States. And so moving forward today, there's been a lot of change, and I've had some of my brothers here, even in Nebraska, ask, why haven't the lodges kind of combined? And it's the history. I believe it's the history. And I don't know how you can put all of that history combined with the Grand Lodge of England celebrating 300 years in 2017 and Prince Hall Grand Lodge over 250 years. So it's been pretty tough, as far as some of the southern states, but I feel that it may not happen in my lifetime, but I think the entire United States will recognize Prince Hall, and all the brothers will be recognized. But I don't believe it has anything to do with race today. I think it's just the rich heritage that each Grand Lodge has independently. But as you know, in Nebraska, we have full fraternal recognition. I believe in Connecticut, they have at the time fraternal recognition, but Nebraska was the first state to have full recognition. Other lodges follow behind them, but Nebraska actually led the way, as far as visitation. I know our Constitution here in Nebraska doesn't allow for dual membership, but that's something that's going to be worked on. As far as I have brothers here in Omaha. Hey, I like to join Prince Hall. I said, currently our Constitution doesn't allow it. However, I think it can be achieved. I do believe it can honestly be achieved. Minnesota, they have dual recognition, or I'm sorry, they can have dual membership. And so I reached out, my second year as Grand Master, to the Grand Master there. And I'm currently in the process of presenting a resolution to see if we can get that going here. So we talk about, I guess the modern day segregation. It saddens me that most of the southern states still have some of their segregated ways. However, there is hope. It's about five states, maybe six, that don't recognize Prince Hall. But there's been some mass improvements. Last year or this year, Tennessee, Georgia, and I think those were huge efforts. As far as Prince Hall Masonry. But a little bit about Prince Hall Masonry here in Nebraska. There was lodges here from Iowa, from Missouri, back in the late 1800s. And so after being here several years, some of the lodges wanted to come together. They wanted to form a Grand Lodge here in Nebraska. However, I know some of the literature that I have, when Nebraska was trying to become a Grand Lodge here, the Grand Master of Missouri came here and just dropped the gavel and says, "You guys are rogue. You're not going to have it. This is not happening." But after, I would say, after being challenged and being persistent, it finally happened. And July 19th, 1919. And we actually celebrated 100 years 3 years ago. And Nathaniel Hunter was elected the first Grand Master. And actually, he is the only person in Nebraska that a lodge is named after, is named after, at the time he was a living Grand Master at the time. So I'm pretty honored to be in Nat Hunter Lodge number 12. And believe it or not, just a little history on that. We raised money back in 2012. He or his wife, Ella, didn't have a headstone here in Nebraska. So we had a black and white ball and a lot of participation from Masons throughout Nebraska, and we made that happen. And that was a great day. So during that time, 1919 through the 1950s, there was 15 lodges here in the state of Nebraska. And through Lincoln, Hastings, Grand Island, Alliance, and Scotts Bluff. Today, we only have 7. One of the lodges in Lincoln, and we have roughly about 200. I think it's less now. Yeah, we have about 180 Masons in the state of Nebraska, which we're small in numbers, but I think we do great work working together with our Masonic brothers here in the state. We also have here in Prince Hall in Nebraska, we have an Eastern Star. They were established 3 years after the Grand Lodge was formed here. And there are 8 chapters, 1 in Lincoln, 8 here in Omaha. I'm 7. Yes. And roughly 200 Eastern Stars. One thing that did happen, and I don't have the exact date, is that they took the bloodline away because I think the Eastern Star family was dwelling down too low where they didn't have enough Masonic men. And so they opened it up to, you didn't have to have a bloodline to become an Eastern Star. Some of the famous Prince Hall Masons that some aren't aware of is Dr. Craig Morris. He was first Black dentist here in Omaha, and he graduated from Creighton. We had Edwin Overall. He was a Black postal carrier. Emery Smith. He was one of Omaha's first Black police officers. I think a few people have heard of Prophet Jenkins, a police officer who was promoted to police detective back in the 30s, and he was also the Grand Master in 42. Edward Fletcher. All right, I left the R out. It's Edward R. Fletcher. We actually have a scholarship named after him that we give out annually. And he was, formed the first Black credit union. And he served over 6 years. And George Flippin graduated from the University of Nebraska, Black football player, inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe they had a dedication 3 years ago down in Lincoln, a park that was named after him. But here, we've been established since 1919. We've been doing a lot, in the community. We have some of our members. Some of you may know Russell Hobson. He's been around for a long time, and he's very involved with the band. He got recognized about 5 years ago at the Grand Lodge in Kearney. I think he's been to every Grand Lodge session since the joint recognition that was held by that happened here. And I'm actually proud that Nebraska has led the way in Masonry for all men. And I think we are going to continue to get better and better. I know I went kind of fast on some of the Masonic stuff there, but Prince Hall has a strong history in Masonry. And our Prince Hall Americanism Day, we talk a lot about our founder, Grandmaster Prince Hall, and what he did for Masonry and how we became who we are today. So I'll open up for some questions. I'll answer to the best of my ability. And if not, I know there's someone I can reach out to and we'll get an answer.
Hey, Freddie, I'll be the first one.
Sure.
What do you see is, this comes from a perspective of my Blue Lodge, which I think is probably similar to most Blue Lodges in the state. What is the biggest impediment to growing membership in Prince Hall?
Well, I think I don't know. That's a tough question. I think technology. I think if you look back, uh, let's say 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when you didn't have the technology, you couldn't look things up on your phone. You had to rely on newspaper. You had to rely on TV. You know, the movers and shakers were, you know, the Masons in the communities, and we're out there, but I don't think we're out there where we're physically being seen. And I can give you an example during some of the when they had the George Floyd incident in Minnesota. You know, there were at the time I was Grandmaster, so I reached out to the Grandmaster of Minnesota. I said, "Hey, I know you're going through some trying times. Anything I can do, let me know." So a lot of our Prince Hall Masons want to go out and peacefully protest. I said, the only issue I have is if you go out there, do not have the square and compass on, because if you're walking and there's a group of people that are out of control, what society will see is that square and compass. Those Masons condone to this violent rioting and things like that. But I don't know how we can get out and reach to the people except youth groups and continuing to do things for the youth. That's our future.
Okay, I'm not actually actively looking at the Q&A. Dan,
Oh, no problem. Okay.
I don't see any questions coming into the Q&A, but I see a number of people who I've promoted to panelist, and they're starting to show up.
All right. All right.
We're propagating here as we speak. So
I do have
I'm
a
just going to
question.
let people start talking as they wish. Turn your mics on whenever you like, guys.
I have a question, if I may. You mentioned something about the Prince Hall Americanist Day on
Americanism Day. Yes,
Americanism Day on September 29. You say you have speakers on that day, and where would their lectures be found? If I wanted to read something like that, are they recorded?
They have not been, but it's generally our grand lecturer. He will have a Prince Hall paper, and
Right.
The charter was granted on September 29th. So we try and have our Americanism Day as close to the 29th. Generally, that's Sunday before, because generally the 29th falls on an odd day. Not so, and I'll get that out. And I know Most Worshipful Brother Ron Stykes puts out a twice a month. He puts out a what's going on in Nebraska, as far as Masonic wise, and I'll make sure that that's in there. I'll reach out to him and
That's great.
And see if we can get it out. And I'll trying to see if there's another avenue. Maybe I can get it in some of the shrine publications. I can reach out to Sesostris and can't think of the other shrine. Takema. There we go. Had to think.
Is there a journal or that people subscribe to, or is some sort of publication that the Prince Hall Masons publish, or is it mostly?
There hasn't been any that I've seen in a while. But I know we do have a Phylaxis Society, which talks a lot about the history of Prince Hall. And so I can shoot you that email on that. And it kind of goes over a lot of there's a lot of, I guess historians, they look into a lot of the Prince Hall history, and
Right.
they usually publicize something maybe quarterly, I believe.
Thank you.
Hey, there's Most Worshipful Brother there, John Parsons. How you doing, sir? He's had his hand up. He's gonna get on me. Yes, sir.
John, mic's yours.
Hello.
I think you're on mute, sir, and that'll cost you some single malt.
After
That scared him away.
Oh,
No,
no.
John, he'll be back.
He's
Uh-oh.
coming.
Yeah.
Well,
That guy's a
There we
history
go.
buff there.
There you go.
How you doing, sir?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. I can't see you, but that's okay. I know who you are.
Well, his camera is turned on, but he can't be seen, so he's a ghost. So,
There we go.
well, while John recapitulates, Jason, I see you're live there in the middle of the bottom of my screen. Did you wish? James has his mic on, so I'm going to let James.
Was it on?
James?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I missed most of the beginning of the presentation. My lodge was having their own esoteric corner. But being a, how do I put this? I'm now located in Alexandria, Virginia, and
Okay.
I know one thing that I'm quite proud of Nebraska Masonic history is that we were the first to recognize Prince Hall. One question that I do have that popped in my head when you spoke about youth groups, and I do not know the Masonic jurisprudence of this, but would DeMolay be a good avenue to help young men get into Prince Hall, or is that
It
there?
could. It could, but actually, Prince Hall has a youth group, Nyssa Pythagorean, KOP, and that website's up and running as well. But they used to have it here, and most of it was sort of ran out of Lincoln. Kind of handled that for the Omaha and Lincoln area, and as some of our most worshipful past grandmasters have passed away, that program sort of went away with it, and some of the knowledge and working tools have gone away. But we've actually reached out to the KOP to find out what we need to do to get that reestablished. And of course, COVID's kind of put a hinder on things for the last couple of years. But on the positive side, it gives you a little more time to do research and a location. Because we'll probably need several locations between Lincoln and Omaha, because that's where our mass of Masons are. And I'd love to get back out west again. Man, I just loved it. Man, just be everywhere. But, we're going to take those baby steps. But actually, my grandson's in DeMolay. Well, he doesn't really go anymore. But, since he turned 18, he's, thinks he's all that in a bag of chips. But that's okay.
That's every DeMolay. I was the same way. Another interesting tidbit that I like to say is that there actually is a YouTube channel that I frequent called the Prince Hall Think Tank.
Yes. Okay.
So that if there is other people that would just like, they are, it's not like tiled or anything. It's very open, but it's a group of brothers that seem very highly enthusiastic about the philosophy and history of the Brotherhood. They even had a Eastern Star group take over their page one time and just spoke about Eastern Star. So if there is any brothers who would be interested in learning a little bit more about the philosophy of Prince Hall, at least maybe the differences with other Masonic bodies, that would be another interesting resource to reach out to, in my opinion.
Okay.
Most worship brother there, John. We got you. We didn't hear you last time. We can see you now. I don't know. I think he's coming back, but I can tell you one thing. For Prince Hall Masons, we have I guess you can call it a dress code. Our dark suits. That's been the norm for Masonry. But for Prince Hall Masons, we are definitely the MIB, Men in Black, black suit, white shirt, black tie, black shoes, white gloves. It's that's our standard dress code. And I know I've gone to, it's when you go in there, I don't think anything of it. I'll go visit some of the brothers here and like, hey, you got all this stuff on. I said, well, this is our norm, so it's I guess that's something that I guess Prince Hall can say this is our standard, this is our norm, and so that's how we show up. It's not that there's a special function going on. That's just every day. And I see Most Worship Brother John has his hand raised. Yes, sir.
He's still frozen in amber. Well, Freddie, got a question. A couple months ago, we had a presenter who was the Grand Master of Oklahoma,
Okay.
who, when past Grand Master of Nebraska asked him about how to accomplish his recommendations for setting the Blue Lodge apart, his comment was, and I think Russ Reno might be here, but the Grand Master's response was to make the lodge more special. I guess we'll put it this way. The idea was that when you entered the lodge, you entered an entirely different place.
Right.
And that lodge was, one of the things
Sacred
he
space.
recommended was, more use of darkness and candles and things that
Oh, okay.
told the candidate that when he got into Masonry, he was in an entirely different world. And it was
Okay.
that special. And I'm just going to throw that out. And John's back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Most Worship Brother John.
He's still frozen in
Yeah.
amber.
You,
So, Freddie, what do you have to say about that particular perspective? Because I know that the idea of the black jackets and ties is part of that, I think. And is there anything else you can add in that respect?
Well, I know, I understand, that is, to me, that's, you are going into a sacred place where this is a life change for you. So I can see, being in darkness coming into light, basically actually being able to witness that with your other brothers that are coming through with you. And it gives you that special sense of that bond where, okay, I'm taking this journey, but I know these guys that are here with me are going to help me throughout my life.
Okay. And John's mic is off now, and he's still in amber.
I'd say if I can just comment on the brothers talk about the dress code. I remember the first week I did when I was here in Virginia, about scared the crap out of me. I remember I was walking my dog, and this is like the first week I'm here in Virginia, in a not so nice neighborhood, I would say that. And I come across this house, and about 5 guys in black suits come popping out of there. And it wasn't until the last minute that I noticed that they were wearing all aprons. And there was this one thing that in a very, I walked it during the day, and there's, you don't see black suits there. You see red caps and, bandanas hanging out of people's pockets. And then just this one night, a whole bunch of guys in suits, and I said hi, showed them my ring, and they're just like, you better come back here on Tuesday. And they were great guys.
Yeah.
Great group of guys.
Where are you in Virginia?
Alexandria.
Okay, you said that. Okay, Alexandria, I got you. Okay.
I am the collections manager of the George Washington Masonic Memorial.
Oh, I was just there.
Great.
I just had a tour there. Yeah, who gave me the tour? We were there for Legion of Honor, doing a reef lane ceremony in November, week before Veterans Day.
Either could have been me or Tyler. We're kind of the ones giving the tours, so
Might have
if I don't
been
recognize
it.
it, it was
Yeah, you'd remember because I was walking around going, man, this is nice. I want that. I want that.
that's everybody here.
Yeah.
Thanks
It was
for-
an excellent excellent tour.
Thanks so much for joining us, James. It's nice to have somebody from out of state.
Well, if my dad sent me this, I know Micah keeps sending me these, and it was just one night where I was finally had off. And if my father heard that I didn't show up, I think he'd pin my hide. Of course, everyone should know my father.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Hey, like I said, it was just a great time. I got off my lodge as their esoteric corner. We just spoke about Masonic German philosophy, and you guys were right after that. So it was just flip right over.
Sweet.
Goethe.
Terrific.
I think John Parsons' bandwidth doesn't allow him to have a constant stream. So I would suggest that if John wants to ask a question, that he type it in the chat.
Okay, I suggest John turn off his camera and turn on only his mic.
Ah, there we go. That's a possibility.
Anyway, James has his camera on, but not his mic. James, do you have Jason? I'm sorry. I'm looking through the chat to see where Jason is from, and I cannot.
I actually live in Colorado, but belong to the Hastings Scottish Rite and to, I'm a dual member with the McCook Lodge and a lodge in Greeley, Colorado.
Good to see you, Jason. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
I do have a question. I know you said that you were going to post this, but I lost my internet connection like 3 times, so I didn't hear the whole presentation. Are you going to like email something out so that I could watch it in its entirety at some point?
Yes, this is being recorded, and the link, Micah Evans will put it on. I'm not even sure where he puts it right now. It's either on YouTube or it's on Vimeo.
Okay.
If you go to, and again, I can only speak to the Lincoln Valley. If you go to the website, you'll find a link to it.
Okay.
You can probably, Dan, you probably can comment on the Hastings website, but yes, it's being recorded, and if you don't find it, and look behind me here, you'll find my email address,
Okay.
and send me an email, and I will find a way to get it to you. But yes, everything's recorded, and all of the previous ones except one have been.
Armel.
No, not that one. There's actually another one where things just blew up on us. But anyway, we're doing better. We're getting better.
Yeah, that should be a total of about 18 that would be available for Scottish Rite education. So all of those should be available to you. And Jason, if you want to get in touch with us, you can contact Phil Odom at the Hastings Valley.
Okay.
And he could give you that link.
Okay. Thank you.
And I see
Also, if you
Phil
missed part, if some of the, I hadn't shared my screen, so if you're looking at it and you don't see anything, it was me.
Well, I saw that Phil Odom is actually an attendee, so I asked him again to be promoted to a panelist, but so far he has not accepted the invitation.
And Ron Nielsen, by the way, Freddie, is with us as well, but he must be hiding in the dark.
Wow.
I
Just let you know, I sure am thirsty. Or maybe I'll
Yeah.
see him at Grand Lodge.
I understand he owes you one.
Of course, y'all, every time, always.
So, Freddie, are you going to be at Grand Lodge in?
Yes, I'll
Kearney?
be there Thursday through, I believe, Sunday.
Well, good. It would be nice to tip a scotch with you.
Oh yeah, definitely, most
Or
definitely.
Whatever's on the table, probably.
That's true.
Well, I don't see any questions in the Q&A.
Ron
Everybody
said I owe him.
Yeah, that's Ron. Yeah.
So While we wait for somebody to speak up, as a reminder, the scheduled, by the way, today's Lyceum is not the normal day we do the webinar. It's normally the last Monday in each month. So from this point forward, it will be the last Monday. This was an exception. On February 28th, we'll have Alex Stratman, who's will by then be the Grand Master of Masons from Nebraska. And he'll speak about his vision for the upcoming year. And then in March 28th, and Wendy, and I'm going to butcher her name, and I think Dan knows better.
I don't know
Buzzard
her.
Barrett, PhD, will speak about the history of Scottish Rite Masonry's Masonic drops
Right.
backgrounds, including those at Hastings and the Omaha Scottish Rites.
Yeah, this is a woman who was an art historian, who is an art historian whose specialty is Masonic drops and on the stages in Masonic lodges. And she came out to Hastings. Gosh, was it last summer? Was it a summer before? Time just flies by, and gave an appraisal of our drops. And I really wanted to meet her. I did not have the opportunity, and I've been looking forward to hearing her speak, just to get a sense of the present, the place that these drops played in art historical development in American history. So I'm very much looking forward to that presentation. So, but I don't know I can't pronounce her last name. She's from Indiana.
That's close enough. Okay. Well, John Parsons, we're going to give you one more chance to turn off your camera and turn on your mic, and maybe we'll be able to communicate with you. Silence reigns in the valley. And Dan disappeared too. How about that? Well, Dan's back.
Yeah, I'm here.
We can't seem to connect with John Parsons, and so at this point, I would, entertain one last chance for questions, and if not,
I do have one.
Okay,
And,
great.
I'm a reader, Freddie. Do you have any suggestions for books to read on Prince Hall Masonry? I was very interested in this topic this evening and would like to know more.
Oh, I'll have to do. There's a lot of information out there. I'm trying to think of the gentleman that did. There's actually in the Nebraska history where I'm drawing a blank right now. Did a lot of research on the Prince Hall Masonry here in Nebraska. Oh man, I cannot think of his name. But what I'll do is I'll put my. Does everyone have my email? I'll put my email in the box here, and I'll do some brainstorming there.
Okay.
Because there are several books out there, but some of it, some books kind of talk about one thing, and then it kind of doesn't really make sense.
Right.
And we're trying to gather as many facts as possible that are close to being correct. But there is some literature out there.
I think my interest would be in a biography of Prince Hall, short or long or whatever. It just seems like an extraordinary life of somebody in the 18th century bringing a charter from England, right? And
that charter was brought in by John Hancock's brother-in-law, and quite interesting. Like I said, I've actually seen the charter. And like I said, as a member of African Lodge Life member, I'll bring my apron down to Grand Lodge that I have. It's kind of the old replica. I actually donated one to the museum, which was just a regular square one, but this one's round. It was, when John Maxwell was Grand Master. So I might have to upgrade that, put a little more history in there.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
But I will say that, I feel that, and, as I've traveled other states, that we really have a good relationship here in Nebraska. Some of my Prince Hall brothers, I said, hey, I could just, make a phone call and say, hey, we're thinking about doing X, Y, or Z. And, I said, they're on it. And it was like, really? I said, yes. I said, really? I said, I said, you never know until you ask. And there's unknowns on both sides. And the only way you're going to know is to ask.
Don or Dan, this is Phil Odom. One thought, Freddie came in late and certainly enjoyed your presentation tonight. But one place we might want to put some of the information on Americanism and maybe even a history of that we've been talking about is Prince Hall is in our quarterly magazine. Micah would be the person to talk to about that.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Just a thought. I know we're always looking. He's always calling me asking for articles out in the Hastings Valley, but I think this would be really good to do for a kind of a history lesson for everyone.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
I know. If you get the Shriners International magazine, I know that when Ron Stykes and I were in the Grand East, we had a joint article that was published, and it was pretty interesting. The questions that the lady was asking. Ron and I we're and I scratched my head, talking to Ron, and I was like, well, I said, we just got to let her know we're all one. It doesn't matter. I said, we're all one. When COVID hit, Ron and I were on the phone, I would say almost weekly. I was like, hey, I said, I just looked at this. The CDC guideline says this. I'm thinking about shutting down. And Ron says, well, I'm thinking about shutting down also. I said, so when are you going to do it? We'll do it at the same time, so that all the Masons in Nebraska, if we're going to stop the meetings, we all do it the same day. We're going to come back based on, the numbers. We'll all come back same time. That way we're on the same page. And I think it worked out real well. And I don't know. And we put out a joint letter also as well when all the things were going on during the George Floyd incident and some of the incidents that were happening here in Omaha. And I don't know if anyone had the opportunity to read that, but I had it on our website, and I believe it might have been on the Grand Lodge of Nebraska's website, but we put a joint letter out, and be more than willing to share that. We both signed it as Grand Masters, and just kind of let the state of Nebraska know that we're here together, and we're looking at us as an entity, as one.
Freddie, Ron Nielsen put a question in chat saying that everyone is free and welcome to attend your Americanism Day. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. And once I get the date out, I will get that out. I know it'll be in September. I don't know when, but I can almost guess. I'm gonna look at my calendar now. I would guess it may be the 25th of September, but don't quote me on that. That is the last Sunday in September before the 29th. Okay. So it's a good possibility. It'll be at our Masonic building on 24th and Ames, 2412 Ames, upstairs. And if anyone's in Omaha and wants to take a look at our lodge building, just let me know. Definitely show you around. We're on the historical register in 2015 and trying to get that old building up in shape.
Okay, I think John finally gave up. John Parsons.
I'll give him a call later.
Okay. Are there any last questions? Dan, anything? Jason, James? Like I said, sounds
I
rings in the
enjoyed
valley.
what I
Oh.
did here, and I'll look forward to watching in its entirety.
Okay, very good. And again, if you have difficulty finding it, let me know. And
Okay.
tonight, Micah is under the weather. We'll put it that way, and he'll be back.
I will say, for those of you who are from out of state, this is open to everyone. We would love it if, Masons from around the country, if not around the world. We haven't had an international visitor just yet, but it's open to anybody. Knowledge is free and liberating.
You know what may be something that, can be looked into when they have the Conference of Grandmasters in North America. That could be something that's kind of snuck in their brochure to put out. And actually, if the Grandmaster is there, he can kind of throw that plug in there. Hey, this is what we're doing here in the state of Nebraska, for the other Grandmasters.
Very good.
We just received a request from Armel McDonald, and he said, Dan and Don, can you turn me on? I don't know if I'm
sorry,
capable of that,
I'm
but
not that kind of guy.
but Armel, I know he wants to say something, but I'm not sure how we can get him.
I just promoted him.
Oh, there he is. He just promoted him.
Yes. I thought I got everybody.
Glad to turn you on, Armel.
Okay, now say something, Armel. Well, where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Armel, turn on your mic. I don't know
He
where
disappeared.
he went. He's magical.
Maybe I'll see him in Omaha sometime. Hadn't seen him in a while.
He just disappeared from both attendees and panelists. So
Oh boy.
unless he dials back in, we're
Oh, he's still on the list.
he is?
Still on the list as a panelist. Well, no, he just popped off.
I'm promoting
guess-
him again.
I guess quickly why Amand gets turned on. If I can make a plug, like I said, I just got off of a esoteric corner that started from my lodge here in Virginia, Alexander Washington Lodge 22, chartered by George Washington in 1785. That is also free and open to anybody. I will put my email in the chat, and if anyone's interested in looking at that, we talk philosophy, esoterica, and we try to make it completely untiled, so anybody who's even remotely interested in Freemasonry can come and see it. So if anyone's interested, drop me a line. I'll get you on the email list.
Okay,
I want to put mine in
you
there.
are live.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Arnold's
James.
here.
There we go.
Yeah, I can't get the video up, but you don't need that to hear what I was going to say. Freddie, you made a comment earlier about problems with recognition and differences, and for whatever reason, the socially the lodges, the principal lodges, and for lack of a better words, the white lodges didn't mix. I wanted to tell you a little story about something with myself in my early days.
Okay.
I'm from Mount Vernon, New York. I grew up 3.5 blocks from the Bronx, and my grandparents raised me. And when I was young, my grandmother worked for what today was we would say an African American. She ran what was called a cold spot in a dry cleaners, and he worked in the North Bronx, and he would do the pressing. And I would one day I noticed he had a Masonic ring on, and I would sit while not in hot weather while he was pressing, and I would talk to him about Masonry. Now, I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I had no idea that there was a difference between a black or a white Mason. I didn't learn that until I was 21 when I became a Mason in Iowa. So it was kind of interesting. I didn't know that distinction. That there was, if someone, I was very young, if someone would have asked me, hey, is there a black Mason or a white Mason? I wouldn't have had any idea at all. All I knew is that there were Masons. So it was kind of, and I know a lot of the history of what you were talking about, and maybe you've heard me tell people about what I just said to you, but that it took me to get older to find out that there was a difference, which at least on paper people looked at that there's a difference. In reality, there's none. So I wanted to convey that back to you, sir.
Oh, no problem. Thanks. It's always good to hear from you. I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to hear from you.
Well, that's because I'm so short. You just look right over me because you're so tall.
Well, I don't mean to. Excellent. Yeah, I'll give you a little story with me here with the as far as the shrine, because I'm in Tangier Shrine, and Prince Hall they had their own shrine also as well, and they their focus is with St. Jude Hospital. So growing up in Cincinnati, Ohio, the Shriners Hospital that was there in high school, we took a tour, and I couldn't believe anything was given free. Growing up in my neighborhood, I was like, you don't get anything free. People don't get free stuff. So when I became a Mason, I didn't realize that that the Prince Hall Shriners aren't affiliated with now as Shriners International. And I scratched my head for like 7 or 8 years trying to figure out what's going on. In my mind, a fez is the fez is the fez is the fez. So I decided to join Tangier Shrine just because, from what my experience was in high school, seeing the Shriners Hospital, seeing the circuses, seeing everything that they were doing. So and it works out well. I mean, I followed my heart, and I still, as a Prince Hall Mason, I still contribute and do, other things that the organization supports. But I said my heart was with the Shriners Hospital, and it's, I know I made the right choice for me.
Great.
Okay, I see in the chat we've got email addresses for Freddie and James Ferguson.
Yep.
For those who wish to take note of that. I don't mean to shut down early, but if I don't hear any additional questions.
I understand.
Anybody else? Going twice, going. There we go.
This is kind of tickling the back of my mind, but I guess there's only one way to say it. I'm not sure how it is in Nebraska, but one thing that I've learned here in Virginia, and I just don't know if that's kind of the same case in Nebraska. There's kind of is this fight going on with the well, it's not really, let me phrase it, it's not really a fight, but I know, at least here in Virginia, because you cross the river, you have Grand Lodge DC, you cross the other river, you have Grand Lodge America. Having all these Grand Lodges so close, they already have I remember when I went to DC Lodge, someone from Maryland wanted to join that DC Lodge, and they got told by the Grand Lodge of Maryland, you're not allowed to do that. He has to first try in Maryland. And I know kind of the same thing also kind of happens when it comes to African American brothers. They approach my lodge and says, hey, can I join your lodge? They first say, are you sure? Because there's this African American thing that might be yours. I don't know if that's the same situation in Nebraska, and maybe that might also be a issue that could be resolved in the future, whether it could be.
Well, if I understand correctly, each state is sovereign within themselves. So if that individual is living in the state of Nebraska, well, let's say it's in Virginia, so he probably wouldn't be allowed to join in DC based on his residence. So and I know Grandmaster Gant over there in DC. He's a nice guy. He's a good guy. What happens is, if I live in DC and I'm gonna join in Virginia or Maryland, I probably need to become a Master Mason in Washington DC area. And then if I'm on the dividing line there, I'll just visit if the other lodges are too far away. And so that would cause less headache for that Master Mason. Or in Nebraska, we do have some, I'm trying to think that I know there's an Eastern Star that lives in Council Bluff she lives in Council Bluff, but there's been like a recognition or something that's been talked to with the Grand Masters of each state that since they're on the border and the closest Eastern Star chapter is in Des Moines, why have that sister drive 2 hours when she can drive 10 minutes? And so that's sort of happening to, I guess you could say, some of the border states. But I know with that Virginia, Maryland, DC, it's just, they gave up part of that to make DC. So I would just, that's a hard one. That's a tough one. But as tight as membership is, people, they want to keep you. They don't want you to go. I see sometime in the future having dual membership here in Nebraska. I think it'll be great. I've talked to some of our older, I should say, seasoned members. They have this this image that, well, if we have dual membership, then we're not going to have Prince Hall. I said, no. I said, the way the language is written can solve that. It would have to be in a sense of, you can come to Grand Lodge session. Like I go to Grand Lodge session in Kearney, but I have no voting rights because I'm a Prince Hall Mason. However, let's say if I were a dual member and a Prince Hall Mason, my mother lodge would still be Prince Hall. So more than likely, I probably wouldn't have voting rights as far as in the Grand Lodge there at Kearney. I mean, and in Nebraska, because my mother lodge, if that makes sense, is Prince Hall. So I think that's, I don't know how to put the language together, but I think if that's the type, something or some sort of language that can be put in, it may work. If one side's worried about the other side overtaking, then just have the language in the Constitution stating that, your mother lodge has to be either in the state, Grand Lodge, Nebraska, or Grand Lodge of Prince Hall. And I think that would eliminate a lot of the cloud or the smoke that's in the air that's like, oh no, we can't do that. There's always a way to get something done.
Okay. Well, I'm in fear of offering again to possibly call it an evening. Call it an evening. Okay. Let's just call it an evening. Most worshipful Freddie, we thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get on some more. I'll tell
great.
Micah to make sure I'm on the list.
We'll lean on Micah, who is recuperating.
Yes.
And we want to expand the audience, so we'd like you to, communicate this to the membership. And again, I'm going to ask if you have any very smart and knowledgeable people within the Prince Hall that you have them get a hold of me so that we can get them in here to do a presentation.
I sure will.
And as for that, I am going to wrap the gavel and tell everyone have a great evening, and we'll see you in a month.
All right. Sounds great. Everyone have a great evening.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, James
Yes.
Mason. Nice
Thank
having
you.
you.
Good night.